The city was already burning when the soldiers arrived. Smoke covered the sky like a dark blanket. Buildings were broken. Sirens screamed in the distance. People ran through the streets with fear in their eyes. No one knew exactly how it started. They only knew one thing. The army was hunting a dragon. Armin stood inside his small workshop, watching the chaos through a cracked window. He was just a mechanic. He fixed engines. He repaired broken bikes. He stayed away from politics, from power, from trouble. But trouble had found his street. Heavy armored trucks blocked both ends of the road. Soldiers in black armor moved house to house. Drones hovered above, scanning every building. "Search everywhere," a commander shouted. "The Dragon Child cannot escape." Dragon Child. The words made Armin's stomach tighten. Everyone had heard the rumors. A young dragon had been seen near the outer wall of the city. Injured. Alone. The government called it a threat. The people called it a curse. Because when dragons were hurt, other dragons came. And when dragons came, cities fell. A loud explosion shook the ground. The workshop lights flickered. Armin turned away from the window. He needed to stay calm. The soldiers would check his shop soon. Then he heard it. A soft sound, almost lost under the noise outside. A weak cry. Armin frowned. It was coming from the back of the workshop, near the storage area where old metal sheets and broken engines were kept. Another cry. Not human. Not machine. Something alive. His heart began to beat faster. He walked slowly toward the back room. Each step felt heavy. The air smelled of smoke and oil. Dust floated in the light. Then he saw it. Under a fallen metal shelf, half hidden in shadow, was a small dragon child. Its scales were silver, but dirty and scratched. One wing was bent in a painful angle. There was dried blood near its side. Its golden eyes looked up at him with fear. It tried to crawl backward, but it was too weak. Armin stopped breathing. This was the dragon, the one the army was searching for. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Outside, boots pounded against the road. "They're checking every building," a soldier yelled. The dragon child made a small shaking sound. It was not roaring. It was not threatening. It was scared. Armin looked at the broken wing, at the blood, at the small body trying to hide. It did not look like a monster. It looked like a child. Heavy footsteps stopped outside his workshop. "Next building," a voice ordered. Armin's mind raced. If they found the dragon here, he would be executed. Everyone knew the law. Helping a dragon meant treason. He could step aside. He could walk away. He could survive. The dragon child's eyes did not leave his face. There was no anger in them, only fear. The workshop door shook as someone hit it from outside. "Open up." Armin closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he moved. He pushed the broken metal shelf slightly to hide the dragon child deeper in shadow. Then he stepped in front of it. The door exploded open. 3 soldiers stormed inside, weapons raised. "Hands up!" the commander shouted. Armin slowly lifted his hands. "We are tracking dragon energy in this area," the commander said coldly. "Have you seen anything?" Armin forced his voice to stay steady. "No." One soldier activated a scanning device. It began to beep softly. The sound grew louder. The commander's helmet turned toward the back room. "What's back there?" "Storage," Armin replied. The soldier stepped forward. The dragon child shifted slightly. The scanner beeped faster. "There," the soldier said. Behind him, the commander raised his weapon. "Move aside." Armin did not move. The commander's voice turned sharp. "Last warning." Armin felt something small press against his back. The dragon child was holding onto his shirt. Its claws were shaking. "It's just a child," Armin said quietly. "It's a dragon," the commander answered. "Move." Armin's legs felt weak, but he stayed. Then, the ground trembled. Light at first. The soldiers looked around. Another tremor followed. Stronger. Tools fell from the walls. Glass shattered. "What was that?" one soldier muttered. The tremor did not stop. It grew. The floor cracked beneath their boots. Outside, people began screaming. A deep roar rolled across the city. Not close. Not small. Ancient. The soldiers froze. The commander touched his communicator. "Report. What is happening?" Only static answered. The tremor became violent. The entire workshop shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The dragon child stepped out from behind Armin. A faint, glowing symbol burned on its neck. The commander saw it. His face went pale. "Royal blood," he whispered. Outside, the street split open with a loud, tearing sound. Metal twisted. Concrete broke apart. A massive shadow rose through the smoke. Huge silver scales reflected the firelight. An enormous dragon climbed from beneath the earth. Its wings spread wide, covering the sky. Its burning eyes locked onto the workshop, locked onto the child, locked onto Armin. The soldiers stumbled backward. "This wasn't supposed to happen," one whispered. The giant dragon let out a roar that shook every building in the city. Armin stood frozen as the shadow covered him. In that moment, he understood. He had not just found a lost creature in the smoke. He had stepped into something far bigger. The city was no longer searching for a dragon. The dragons had come for the city. And this was only the beginning. The giant dragon did not attack. It waited. Its massive wings spread across the burning sky. Smoke moved around its body like dark water around a stone. Its eyes were fixed on one thing: the dragon child. Inside the workshop, the soldiers were frozen. "Fire!" the commander shouted suddenly. 3 weapons discharged at once. Bright energy blasts shot toward the giant dragon. The blasts never reached it. A strange, invisible force stopped them midair. The air itself seemed to bend. The blasts exploded harmlessly above the street. The soldiers stared in shock. The dragon had not even moved. Armin slowly looked down at the dragon child beside him. The glowing mark on the child's neck was brighter now. It was not just glowing. It was pulsing, like a heartbeat. The ground shook again, harder than before. Not from above, from below. Something else was moving under the city. The commander stepped backward. "This is wrong," he muttered. "This is not a simple target." The dragon child suddenly stepped forward into the open street. "Stop," Armin whispered, but the child kept walking. The giant dragon lowered its head slowly, carefully. Not an attack. In respect. The soldiers noticed it too. "Why is it bowing?" one soldier asked quietly. The commander's voice trembled. "Because that is no ordinary child." A loud cracking sound split the air. Across the city, other streets began breaking apart. Roars answered from far away. One, then another, then 5 more. Dark shapes moved inside the thick smoke above the clouds. More dragons. The city alarms began screaming loudly. Military airships rose quickly from the central base. Jets flew into the sky. Missiles locked onto targets. Armin grabbed the dragon child's shoulder. "We need to hide," he said. But the child did not look afraid anymore. Its golden eyes were calm, stronger, different. Suddenly, the child looked at Armin and spoke for the first time. Not in a roar, in a whisper. "Stay." Armin felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, something deeper. The giant dragon's eyes shifted toward the soldiers again. This time there was anger. The commander panicked. "Full attack. Now!" Missiles launched from the airships. The sky turned bright with fire. The missiles flew toward the giant dragon. Before they could hit, the dragon child raised its small claw. Everything stopped. Missiles froze in the air. Jets stalled mid-flight. Time itself seemed to pause. The soldiers gasped. The commander dropped his weapon. The dragon child's eyes were glowing pure white now. The symbol on its neck expanded like light spreading through water. Then the child lowered its claw. All missiles turned in the air and flew back toward the military fleet. The sky exploded. Airships burned. Jets fell like broken birds. The street shook violently. People screamed in fear from inside their homes. The war had begun, but it was not the dragons who started it. It was the fear of men. The giant dragon let out a roar so powerful that every window in the city shattered at once. Shockwaves knocked soldiers off their feet. Armin fell to his knees but kept his eyes on the child. He finally understood. This was not just royal blood. This was something ancient, something far beyond the army. More dragons broke through the clouds. Huge shapes landed around the city, forming a circle. Not attacking, surrounding, watching. The commander crawled backward across broken concrete. "We were told the air was weak," he whispered. "Injured, harmless." The dragon child turned slowly toward him. Its voice was no longer soft. "You hunted me. The words echoed inside the commander's mind instead of his ears. You burn my nest. The ground beneath the commander cracked open. He screamed. Armin stepped forward quickly. Stop, he shouted. The dragon child looked at him. For a moment, everything was silent. The giant dragons waited. The city waited. The child's glowing eyes slowly returned to gold. The cracks in the ground stopped spreading. The commander collapsed, shaking but alive. Armin looked at the child carefully. You don't have to destroy everything, he said quietly. The child studied his face. Smoke drifted between them. Sirens cried in the distance. Finally, the child spoke again. They will not stop. Armin looked at the burning airships falling from the sky. They already lost, he replied. High above, one final massive shadow moved through the clouds. Bigger than the others. Older. A dragon so large it blocked the sun itself. The other dragons lowered their heads in the air. Even the giant silver dragon on the street bowed deeply. Armin felt cold fear. This was not a rescue force. This was a royal court, and the king had arrived. The massive dragon's eyes burned brighter than fire. It looked at the child, then at Armin. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the king dragon spoke. Not with sound, with power. The human shielded you. The child nodded once. The king's gaze shifted to Armin again. You stand between fear and fire. The city trembled harder than ever before. Not from attack, from judgment. The soldiers lay helpless. The military fleet was destroyed. The dragons controlled the sky. The king dragon slowly spread his wings. If humans choose war, his voice echoed in every mind, they will have it. Armin stepped forward again. He should not have, but he did. We didn't choose this, he said loudly, even though his legs shook. They did. The king's eyes narrowed. The wind around the city grew stronger. Buildings cracked under invisible pressure. Everything was seconds away from complete destruction. The dragon child moved in front of Armin. Small, injured, but powerful. It looked up at the king and said one word. Enough. Silence fell instantly. Even the wind stopped. The king stared at the child, then slowly folded his wings. The pressure disappeared. The city stopped shaking. The dragons did not attack, but they did not leave either. They waited, because this was no longer a rescue. This was a warning, and the world had just learned something terrifying. The dragon child was not running anymore. The dragon child was deciding, and whatever it decided next would change the fate of humans forever. Silence did not mean peace. It meant something worse. Decision. The sky was still dark with dragons. The giant king hovered above the city like a second sun made of fire and shadow. The army was broken. Their airships burned in the streets. Their soldiers lay shaking on cracked concrete. But the war was not over, because fear does not die easily. Far away, inside the central military tower, a final order was given. If we cannot control the air, we eliminate the city. Deep underground, hidden weapons came alive. Old weapons. Forbidden weapons. The kind built only for extinction. On the broken street, the dragon child suddenly looked up. Its eyes narrowed. It felt it. The king dragon felt it too. A low growl rolled across the sky. Armin noticed the change immediately. What is it? He asked quietly. The dragon child's voice entered his mind. They choose fire. Before Armin could answer, the ground split again, but not from dragons. From machines. Huge metal towers rose from beneath the city blocks. Black cannons pointed toward the sky. Red energy gathered at their tips. The citizens screamed and ran. The surviving commander, still on his knees, looked up in horror. No, they activated them. One of the soldiers whispered, "Those weapons destroy everything, human and dragon." The king dragon roared with anger. The air grew hot. The dragon army prepared to strike. But the dragon child stepped forward again. No, it said. The cannons fired. Blinding red beams shot into the sky. Not toward the dragons. Toward the clouds above them. The sky tore open. A burning crack formed high above the city. Reality itself seemed to rip apart. Armin felt the air being pulled upward. Buildings shook violently. The dragon child grabbed his arm. "This is not a weapon," the child said. "It is a gate." From the burning crack in the sky, something moved. Not a dragon. Not human. Something older. A shape made of darkness and fire. The king dragon's roar turned into something Armin had never heard before. Fear. The soldiers looked at each other in confusion. We were told this would wipe out the dragons. The commander screamed into his dead communicator. What have you done? The sky split wider. A massive claw pushed through the crack. But it was not scaled. It was made of shadow. The dragon child stepped forward. This is why dragons do not rule humans, it said quietly. You open doors you do not understand. The king dragon descended lower, landing hard enough to shatter the street. For the first time, it did not look at the army. It looked at the child and bowed deeply. Command us, the king said inside every dragon's mind. The shadow creature began pulling itself into the world. The air froze. Light bent around it. Armin struggled to stand as the wind howled like a storm. Can you stop it? He shouted. The dragon child looked small again for one brief second. Then its eyes burned brighter than ever before. Yes. It stepped into the center of the broken street. All dragons formed a circle around it. The king spread his wings wide. The cannons continued firing, feeding energy into the open sky. Armin watched in shock as the dragon child lifted both claws. The glowing royal symbol expanded across its body, covering its silver scales in ancient light. The shadow creature roared, a sound that hurt the mind itself. Windows shattered miles away. The dragon child screamed back, not in fear, in command. The dragons answered. Fire exploded upward from every dragon at once. Golden fire, not red, not wild, controlled, focused. The flames met the shadow creature midair. The city became brighter than day. Armin shielded his eyes. The heat did not burn him. It moved around him, protected him, because the dragon child had chosen him. The shadow claw tried to break through again. The crack in the sky widened. The king dragon roared in pain as the creature struck him with dark energy. He almost fell. The dragon child saw it, and something inside it changed. It was no longer just defending. It was angry. You burned my home, the child said, voice echoing across the sky. You hunted my blood. The symbol on its body turned from gold to white, pure white. The fire from the dragons shifted color instantly. White flame shot into the sky. The shadow creature screamed. The crack in the sky began to close. The cannons below exploded one by one, unable to control the power they had released. The military tower in the distance collapsed. The commander watched in horror as his own weapons destroyed his base. The shadow creature gave one final roar and was pulled back through the closing tear in the sky. Silence fell. The cracks sealed. The sky slowly returned to normal. Smoke drifted through the broken city. The dragons lowered themselves to the ground. The king dragon landed heavily, wounded but alive. The dragon child's white glow faded back to silver. It staggered. Armin ran forward and caught it before it fell. For a moment, it looked like just a tired child again. Small, injured, breathing fast. You stayed, the child whispered. I said I would, Armin replied. Around them, the dragons watched in complete silence. The army was gone. Their secret weapons destroyed them. Their leaders dead. The city stood half broken but alive. The king dragon slowly approached Armin. This time, he did not bow to the child. He bowed to the human. You stood when even dragons hesitated, the king's voice echoed. Armin shook his head. I was just protecting a child. The king's eyes burned softly. You protected a future. Far in the distance, sirens from other cities began to rise. News was spreading. The world had seen the sky tear open. They had seen dragons fight something worse. Humans would not forget this, and they would not forgive their own leaders. The dragon child looked at Armin seriously. They will come again, it said. Not with fear, with greed. Armin looked at the broken skyline. What happens next? The child's golden eyes reflected the rising sun. Now, it said quietly, we decide who rules the fire. And for the first time, the dragons were not looking at the sky. They were looking at humanity, waiting. The world did not sleep that night. Every screen across every city showed the same image. The sky tearing open. dragons breathing white fire, a shadow creature screaming as it was pushed back into darkness. And in the center of it all, a small dragon child standing beside a human. Governments called it an attack. People called it survival. But no one called it the truth. Far beyond the broken city, in a hidden war council deep underground, powerful leaders gathered around a circular table of black glass. They protected us, one said nervously. They exposed us, another replied coldly. They showed the world our secret weapons. Silence filled the room. Then the oldest general spoke. The dragons did not destroy the city. The others looked at him. They could have, he continued, but they didn't. A younger commander slammed his fist on the table. That child controlled them. That is power we cannot allow to exist. The room grew quiet again. Finally, a decision was made. If we cannot destroy the heir, we control the human. Back in the ruined city, the sun rose over broken buildings. Smoke still drifted through the streets. Dragons remained perched on rooftops and towers, watching silently. They were not attacking. They were guarding. Armin stood on top of his damaged workshop, staring at the horizon. The dragon child sat beside him, quiet and thoughtful. The king dragon rested behind them like a mountain of silver scales. You saved them, Armin said softly. They would have destroyed themselves, the child replied. Before Armin could answer, a strange sound filled the air. Not a roar, not a machine, a signal. Every screen in the city turned on at once. A face appeared. The High Chancellor. We come in peace, the Chancellor said calmly. Armin felt the dragon child tense beside him. We wish to negotiate with the dragon sovereign. Sovereign. The word echoed through the city. The child did not look surprised. What do they want? Armin asked. They want control, the child answered. The Chancellor continued speaking. As a sign of trust, we request only one thing. The screen shifted. Armin's image appeared, standing in front of the dragons, shielding the child. A red circle formed around him. We request the human. The dragons growled instantly. The king's wings spread slightly. Armin felt cold air run down his spine. They believe you are the key, the child said quietly. More screens activated. Military fleets were moving toward the city again. But this time, they were not firing. They were surrounding. The Chancellor's voice grew sharper. Hand over the human, and we will stand down. If not, we will activate the global defense grid. The dragon child's eyes darkened. Armin did not know what the grid was, but the king dragon did. And for the first time, the king looked worried. They built weapons in orbit, the child explained. Not for dragons, for planets. Armin slowly understood. If they fire that, the sky burns, the child said. Silence fell between them. The dragons could fight armies. They could fight fleets. But orbiting weapons that could burn continents? Even dragons could fall. The king stepped closer to Armin. You are not bound to us, the king said inside his mind. You may leave. Armin looked at the dragon child, at the broken city, at the frightened people watching from windows. If I go with them, he asked. They will study you, the child said honestly. They will try to learn how you changed me. Armin gave a small, tired smile. I didn't change you. The child looked at him carefully. You reminded me. Above them, the military fleet moved into position. Satellites in orbit began glowing faintly in the morning sky. The world held its breath. The Chancellor's voice returned. This is your final offer. The dragon army shifted uneasily. Some prepared to take flight. Others prepared to die. Armin stepped forward. If I go, he said quietly, they stop. For now, the child replied. The king's massive head lowered. You owe us nothing, human. Armin looked up at the enormous dragon. Maybe not. Then he looked at the dragon child. But I owe you. The child's golden eyes flickered. Before anyone could stop him, Armin began walking toward the edge of the broken street, where military vehicles were approaching. Dragons moved as if to block him. The child raised its claw. They stopped. Let him choose, the child said. The sky above grew brighter as the orbital grid charged. Time was running out. Armin reached the center of the street and raised his hands. The fleet paused. The Chancellor appeared again on the screens. A wise decision. Suddenly, The dragon child's voice echoed across the entire city. Wait. Armin turned. The child stepped forward alone. Small. Silver. Calm. If he goes, the child said, I go. Gasps filled the streets. The chancellor's face stiffened. That is not acceptable. It is not a request, the child replied. The sky darkened suddenly. The dragons rose into the air as one. The king roared. If you take him, the child continued, you take your sovereign. The orbital satellites flickered uncertainly. The fleet commanders hesitated. No one had planned for this. The world's cameras were still broadcasting live. Billions were watching. The chancellor's calm mask began to crack. You would risk war again? The dragon child looked directly into the cameras. You already did. Silence. The orbital grid powered down slowly. One satellite after another went dark. The fleet began to retreat. The chancellor's image disappeared. The world had chosen fear once. But this time, it stepped back. The dragons landed again. Armin exhaled deeply. You didn't have to do that, he said. The dragon child looked up at him. Yes, it replied. I did, because now it was clear. This was no longer a war of fire. It was a war of choice. And the smallest dragon had just forced the most powerful humans in the world to kneel. But far above the atmosphere, one satellite remained active, watching, waiting, and someone, somewhere whispered, if we cannot control the dragon, then we control the future. And the real game had just begun. The fleet had retreated. The orbital grid had powered down. The world believed the crisis was over. But peace is often just silence before a deeper storm. High above the planet, one hidden satellite remained active. It did not belong to the government. It did not belong to the military. It belonged to someone else. Someone who had watched everything. Inside a secret station in orbit, a private transmission was sent. Phase 2 begins now. On the ground, the dragons were preparing to leave. The king stood tall at the center of the broken city. The other dragons circled him in the sky. Citizens watched carefully from windows and rooftops. They expected destruction, but none came. Instead, the dragon child stood beside Armin quietly. The city was half ruined but still standing. You stopped a war, Armin said softly. The child looked at the horizon. No, it replied. I delayed one. Before Armin could answer, the sky flickered. Not with fire, with light. A strange grid of blue lines formed high above the clouds. Not red like before. Not violent. Silent. The king dragon looked up immediately. This is not human military, he growled. The air felt heavy. Every dragon in the sky became alert. The blue grid began moving downward slowly. Like a net, Armin felt his chest tighten. What is that? The dragon child's golden eyes narrowed. A cage. Suddenly, bright pillars of blue energy slammed into the ground around the city, forming a massive circle. Dragons tried to fly upward. They hit an invisible barrier. The sky was sealed. The city was trapped. A calm voice echoed from the sky itself. Do not resist. The voice did not belong to the chancellor. It did not belong to any leader Armin had seen. We are not your enemies, the voice continued. We are your future. The king dragon roared and fired a blast of golden flame at the barrier. The flame hit the blue wall and vanished. No explosion, no damage, nothing. The dragons had never faced something like this. The dragon child stepped forward slowly. You are not human, it said. Correct, the voice replied. A shape appeared above the city. A sleek silver craft unlike any human design. Smooth, sharp, advanced. Armin felt cold fear. Another species? He whispered. Yes, the dragon child answered quietly. They waited for us to weaken each other. The voice from the sky spoke again. For centuries, we have studied dragons and humans. You are both unstable, so we will remove the problem. The blue grid began shrinking slowly inward. Buildings inside the outer circle began to dissolve into particles of light. Not burned, erased. People screamed. The dragons attacked the barrier again and again. Nothing worked. The king looked at the dragon child. Command us. But the child did not look angry this time. It looked focused. The symbol on its neck began glowing again. White. Stronger than ever before. Armin stepped closer. What are you going to do? The child looked at him calmly. Choose. The blue grid closed tighter. The outer streets vanished completely. The alien voice remained cold and calm. This world will be cleansed. The dragon child suddenly placed its small claw on Armin's chest. You gave me something humans forgot, it said. Mercy. Armin's heart pounded. You don't have to fight alone. The child shook its head. This is not about fighting. Above them, the alien craft began charging a final beam. A beam powerful enough to erase the entire trapped city. The king dragon spread his wings to shield the child. The dragons roared one final time. But the child stepped forward alone and raised both claws toward the sky. The white symbol exploded outward in light. Not fire. Light. The blue grid stopped shrinking. The alien craft flickered. The voice changed for the first time. Energy spike detected. The dragon child's voice echoed not just in the city, but across the planet. You fear chaos, the child said, so you create control. The white light spread beyond the city walls, beyond the barrier, into orbit. The hidden satellite shattered instantly. The alien craft trembled. For the first time, the advanced species realized something. They had misunderstood. Dragons were not chaos. They were balance. The white light struck the alien ship, not destroying it, freezing it in place, disabling it completely. The blue grid shattered into pieces of harmless light. The barrier vanished. The city was free. The alien voice returned one last time. Not calm anymore. We will return. The ship disappeared into deep space. Silence fell. The dragons slowly lowered themselves to the ground. The king stared at the child in awe. You have awakened, he said. The child's white glow faded. It stumbled. Armin caught it again before it fell. You okay? He whispered. The child looked up at him, eyes golden once more. They will come back, it said softly. Armin nodded. Then we'll be ready. Around them, humans slowly stepped out from hiding. They looked at the dragons differently now. Not with fear, with understanding. The king dragon approached Armin one final time. You are no longer just a human, the king said. You are the bridge. The dragon child smiled faintly. Fire chose its king. Armin blinked. Who? The child looked at him. You. In the sky above, the clouds finally cleared. Sunlight touched the broken city. Not as a warning, as a beginning. Far beyond the stars, the alien craft drifted damaged in silence. And inside it, someone whispered, the dragon sovereign has bonded with a human. This changes everything. Back on Earth, humans and dragons stood together for the first time in history. The war that had started with fear had ended with choice. But the universe had noticed. And this time, it was watching carefully.